Hey, thanks for joining me on the Life Podcast, where you guessed it, we talk about life. My name is Austin, and I'm so excited that you are tuning in today. This podcast exists to encourage you and walk alongside you as you experience life. So thanks for tuning in. Now let's get into today's episode. All right. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Today is a special day on the Life Podcast because I have with me one of my really good friends. His name is Jonny Ramirez. We went to high school together a little bit. We went to college together, and then I graduated and left him there all by himself. But yeah, he's a good friend, and I think he's going to speak some really great things today. So, Jonny, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So just kind of like Austin said, my name's Jonny. Official name Jonathan, but everybody calls me Jonny.
There you go.
But yeah, like I said, like Austin said, we're pretty good friends over the past year and a half. We've grown, our friendship has really grown. I mean, we play basketball together. I mean, we actually went to college together too. My first year, I'm actually going to SUM. It's a Bible college out of California, online, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my first year was his last year actually. So we kind of got to do some classes together and just kind of that's where our friendship kind of started to grow and pick up. And yeah, so a little bit about me too is I'm 19 years old. I wasn't born in Hermiston. I was born in Walla Walla, but I've lived in Hermiston my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm currently pursuing a Bible studies degree in biblical studies. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm super pumped that you are here today. I think that you have some wisdom and some experience that you can share with us. And I think everybody listening is going to be able to gain something from today. And I hope they're tuning in. And like I said in the first episode, you better break out the notepad because it's going to be good. All right. Perfect. So today, I really wanted to talk about this idea. Actually, Jonny and I were talking about an episode together, and we kind of brainstormed this idea together. But we wanted to talk about and answer this question: who am I and what am I here for? Mm-hmm. Who am I and what am I here for? Because I think that there are so many people who are looking to answer that question. They don't know who they are. They don't know their purpose. They don't feel like they have meaning. And I think it's so relevant because like we were saying earlier when we were talking about this, that it's especially during quarantine, so many people are losing jobs, they're losing money, they're losing even relationships, and a lot of those things are things that we have placed our identity in. If I place my identity in my job and then I get fired from my job, then my identity's gone. So how do we maneuver these kinds of messy areas of life? And I really want to answer this question so that way when these tough times do come, when the chaos does come, when trial comes, our identity isn't shaken, our purpose isn't shaken, because it is somewhere that is never going to go away. And that's really how we want to answer this question today. And just to kind of describe this term identity and this term purpose, let me give you a couple definitions. So identity answers the question, who am I? And typically our identity is found in where we spend the majority of our time, our effort, and our energy. For example, when I was in high school, I loved basketball. I breathed basketball. I ate basketball. Whatever you like. That's how you want to say it, right?
I guess so.
And Jonny, you were the same way, right? You loved basketball, man.
I mean, it was at a point where I guess you can say ball is life.
Yeah, ball is life, dude. So it really was. And I remember my senior year, my last basketball game, we lost by like 40, something ridiculous in the first round of the playoffs, right? And we were 16 seed. They were number 1 seed. Dude, they had like 4 guys going D1, and we had like a bunch of 5'7" white guys like myself. So anyway, that's beside the point.
I remember that.
Yeah, dude, it was terrible. And anyway, I found my identity in basketball because when basketball season ended, I remember sitting in the locker room just crying because I was like, man, this part of my life is over. Yes, there were tears for that, but mostly because I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like I would go to school and then basketball practice every single day. I would go to open gyms on the weekends. I would watch basketball. I'd watch the film. Like that's what I did. And that was taken away from me. And I feel like during this time of quarantine, dude, so many people have had things taken away from them, whether it be jobs, relationships, money.
Getting together with your friends. I mean, basically, COVID's just taken everything away.
Yeah, it really has. So, and I think there's many people that are facing this sort of identity crisis, this what am I here for kind of crisis. And the idea of purpose really does answer that question. What am I here for? What is my meaning? What can I do with my life? Like, is there a point to it? So that's what we want to talk about today. And I think just to give another quick example of why I think people are searching for this answer, because there's this book titled The Purpose-Driven Life. And it answers this question, what on earth am I here for, by Rick Warren. And it's one of the most sold books in like the history of books. And I think that's crazy because people are searching for answers to these very questions. So
Yep.
Jonny and I, we're going to attempt to answer and hopefully give you some practical advice and tips as to what you can do to finding your purpose and to finding your identity in a way that won't set you up for failure later on in life when the trial does come, when the chaos does hit. So we're going to do our best to answer those questions today. Are you ready, Jonny?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Perfect, man. I'm so pumped for what you're going to share. So let's get into it. Jonny, can you just tell us a little bit about maybe your story of finding yourself and discovering who you really are and what that whole journey looked like for you?
Yeah. So just kind of my life. I mean, for those of you who don't know me, my whole life has basically been revolved around going to church because I'm a PK, which is, for those of you who don't know, is a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
And growing up, I felt like being a PK is something that held me at a standard that it doesn't hold other people to.
Right.
And I felt like I just needed to be this person. I needed to be like this. And if I wasn't, it's kind of frowned upon. And it's kind of like people were looking at me and saying, wow, I was a person that people look up to, basically, because I'm obviously the son of a pastor. So
right, so you're expected to be some great kid, never get in trouble, never do anything wrong.
Yeah, in other words, basically. So basically, growing up, I kind of just had that in the back of my mind, and I wasn't really like a crazy kid who did anything crazy.
Yeah.
So, but growing up, I went to church, and up to high school is when really I started to ask myself, like, who am I? That's like my identity, like what's my purpose, like what was I made for, what was I created for? And like how Austin said, like basketball was like kind of the way that he, like, basically everything he did in high school, and that's kind of like what I was like in high school too, a little bit, to kind of, we share that similarity. And I would like attend the open gyms, go to basketball. I wasn't really that good at basketball.
Neither was I. It's okay.
Honestly, but I just wanted to be better, and I wanted to be like the best, honestly. And I felt like basketball was like my identity. It's what I found myself in. Yeah. And I kind of forgot about basically everything else. And it really took over my life. And it wasn't like a bad thing, I'd say, but it was something that was like an issue. It was a problem because I feel like to find like your identity and purpose, you can't find your identity in something that's temporary, because if it's something that's going to end, then what's the point of that? I mean, like kind of like how you said, like in when basketball ended for you, like you were kind of like, what am I going to do now? Like it's over. Yeah.
As silly as it sounds too, that basketball be the thing that you put your identity in. It's so true. And I think you said something really good just now. You said, though it wasn't a bad thing, like basketball is a good thing, right? It's not bad. It's not like you're doing drugs. It's not like you're, on the streets just getting wild. I mean, it's a fine thing, but the problem is it's not the best thing. Yeah. And I think that's really where we want to point people today. So I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, that's good, bro. I like that. So basically, I throughout high school, my freshman, sophomore, that's after freshman, right?
Yes,
freshman,
it is.
sophomore, and then my junior year, I kind of just went throughout, playing basketball and just doing my thing. And really my junior year is when I like kind of was tired of the life that I was living. I mean, I was a PK going to church doing stuff. And, for those of you, also, I'm a Christian, obviously.
Yeah.
I love Jesus. And it was at a point where I kind of can reflect. I had to like step back and reflect in my life and say, like, what am I actually doing?
Right.
And just to, like, my junior year, really, it was the end of the season. I played a couple games on JV, then I kind of swung varsity a little bit. I didn't really play much, but I was on varsity. And I was in the best shape of my life. Like, I was literally, getting there. And
swole.
Because I was kind of a bigger kid throughout my freshman and, sophomore year. But junior year, I was kind of getting I slimmed down a little bit.
Dude, flex on us like that.
But yeah, so, and I really had to make a decision. I was like, am I going to let basketball be my identity for the rest of my life, like throughout high school, or am I going to actually find myself in something that's going to last? And I discovered, and it was at a point where I was kind of growing in my faith too, and it was a decision that I made, and I would like spend time praying to God and just dwelling in His presence, and it was at a point, honestly, I kid you guys not, I was like getting so close to God, and God spoke to me and said, if that basketball is not going to be it's going to end someday, right? And why are you putting so much effort into something that's going to end when you can put something that's going to be everlasting and eternal in me? And, that really woke up and like opened my eyes. And I mean, this is me at, what was I? I was 17, right?
Yeah, just a couple years ago.
It's a couple years ago, yeah. And 17, and I was looking at, my senior year, which is basically, I mean, Austin could say it's like your best year. I mean, what can you expect? Like, it's your senior year, you're on varsity.
Yeah.
Friday night lights,
Yeah, dude. It's a good time, man. Good memories.
Yeah. And it was I had to make a decision. I had to make like either, keep doing what I was doing in basketball or just kind of give it up and pursue something else and, give my all to God. And I decided to do that. And I kid you not, I look back and I say, I wish I could have played my senior year, but now thinking about it, where I am now in life and pursuing my degree in biblical studies, and there's no better decision I could have made, because I found my identity in Christ, which is everlasting. And, basketball is over. Like, it would have been fun memories, but I found myself in something that's not going to end.
Yeah.
So.
Dang, I think that's super encouraging to those of us who might look back and say, I have regrets for doing things like this or whatever. But I think that's cool. Mm-hmm. I also think that it's super amazing that you made the choice, that you didn't just make a choice, but you really thought about it. You really looked into the future and said, okay, basketball is not a bad thing. I love it. If you guys don't like basketball, sorry, we keep talking about it so much, but like basketball is not a bad thing. You like playing it. It's good for you, but like, what is it going to do for you in the future? And how is this benefiting you and to where you're going? And you felt that God had a different purpose for your life, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. One of the biggest things as we talk about this idea of purpose and identity is really choosing. I mean, we're Christians, so we believe that God has a plan for all of us. So Jonny, you believe that God had a certain plan for you, and you decided that plan was what's best for you, even though you felt like you could have done something different. Yeah. I totally feel that. I remember my senior year, I went and played open gym at a couple colleges because I wanted to go play college basketball. Like, I thought that's what I wanted to do. And I went and played a couple open gyms, and I had the opportunity to go play at some colleges. And I was like, dang, like, I'm going to do it. It's going to be amazing.
I want to there, but
yeah. Dude. I was super pumped. And I just remember like, I wasn't super serious with my faith back then. As I am now. And right now I'm currently, I graduated Bible college. I am in ministry. I'm a youth pastor here at my church. So my life is kind of taking a different turn than what I thought it was going to be. Wow. But I remember thinking to myself, Austin, like, you could play basketball or you could invest time, in, like, you could save money and go to community college, which I did. I stayed here with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and we now have a beautiful family, and I would not change it for anything. But I mean, I keep thinking, what if I would have followed like, what if I would have followed those things that I wanted versus those things that I knew that I felt like God was calling me to. And even though I wasn't super serious about my faith, I still had that like small voice in my head that said, Austin, like, I don't think that's what's right for you. And I think that there are probably people listening right now who are probably on the edge of making a decision that could determine a big part of their future, who are deciding if they want to move or not, what college they want to go to. Maybe they're entering their senior year in high school. Maybe they're just about to graduate college. Maybe they're ready to make a career change, whatever it is. I think that God is speaking to all of us about the plan that he has for us. And man, it's super encouraging, man, to hear that you decided to follow that call instead of following your desires and what you wanted. Man, how hard is it to deny yourself, bro? Tell us a little bit. Was that decision tough?
It was tough. I mean, it was really tough. I mean, I love basketball as a young teenager, and I still like it. Me and Austin will go at it sometimes, but also it was really tough. It was a tough decision, my senior year, a lot of people told me, like, why didn't you play? Why aren't you playing? Like, especially my family, because my family is really, really into sports. And, but, I had to just say, it's just, I'm investing my life into something greater than basketball. And it was then when they couldn't really say anything, but they would tell me that they wanted me to play, and they would keep nagging at me. But, I would just, I just ended up making that decision. Also, I want to add something else.
For sure.
It's not just, basketball that, whoever's listening to this, basketball was the part for me that was kind of taking over my life. But, in life, it can be like a relationship. It can be different areas. I mean, I know we're heavily talking about basketball right now, but this reflects on anything. I mean, true. There's a relationship that you find yourself that it's maybe not healthy, that it's just reflecting who you are, and you don't feel comfortable in it. Or there's like different areas in your life that are just taken over that you just feel like, man, this is not good. Or, Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that needed to be said, that it's not just, I mean, though basketball is the example we're using, and it might sound silly to some people, I think that there are many of us, like I kind of stated at the beginning, that are finding who we are in what we do rather than who we are because of who we were created to be. And to give you an example, if I found who I was in the things that I do, my identity would fluctuate all the time. It would be, for example, I worked at the movie theater when I was in high school. Then I worked at Domino's, and then I now work at Denny's as a waiter, and I'm a youth pastor. And what's crazy to me is when we meet somebody new for the first time, some of our first questions are, all right, what's your name? And what do you do? Because we have put so much emphasis on the things that people do, and we decide that those things that people do are really who they are. So to some people, I might not be more than just a waiter at Denny's, which that's not who I am at all. Matter of fact, I'm way more than that. Not to like try to brag on myself or whatever, but I would never say, yeah, I'm a waiter at Denny's and that's who I am. No, who I am is, I am Austin. I am created by God. I have a plan that he has given to me. It is not just Austin the waiter, or Austin the pizza delivery guy, or Austin the movie theater worker, or Jake from State Farm, or whoever you want to talk about, right? But I mean, isn't that, I feel like it's so crazy that we do that, especially in westernized culture. It's very much like get to the top because you want to make a name for yourself rather than accepting what God has already given you. So kind of that battle between identity and what we do versus who we are, I think. And let me just speak to that for a minute, and maybe you'll have something to add after I say this. But I think coming from two guys who are Christians, who love Jesus, who are passionate about following him, and maybe you're not a Christian, maybe you're not religious and listening to this, let me tell you a little bit about what I believe and why I think that this is the right way. So in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, God had just created the world. And in Genesis 2:7, it says this: "Then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being." So when God made Adam, the first man on the earth, he gave him identity and purpose. So in that first verse right there, it says that the Lord God breathed into him the breath of life. And that's his identity right there. His identity is that he is created from God, that he is a product of God, and his identity should be found in the one who made him. So he cannot find identity from anything that was already made. He could only find identity in God. So if he wanted to know who he was, he needed to ask God, like, who am I? And God gave him a name. You are Adam. And then not only did God give him a name and say who he was, God said he gave him purpose. In Genesis 2:15, it says this: "Then the Lord God took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and to keep it." And then it says that God had Adam name all the creatures and the beasts of the ground and the air. And then he even said to Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. He didn't just tell them who they were. He gave them purpose and he gave them meaning. And I think a lot of times when we think about God, when we think about our purpose and our identity, we think that God doesn't necessarily, I think a lot of people think God doesn't care about what we do here on earth, but God cares about some of the most minute details of our life. Like God cares if God has called me to be a waiter at Denny's, then that is the best place for me to be because that's what he has purposed for me already. And I think that there are some people out there who need to hear that actually, because I believe that God has a plan for each of our lives, and that's going to look vastly different than somebody else's plan. There are people who are in the NBA right now, and I kind of wish that I was in the NBA sometimes, but I know that God didn't create me to be in the NBA. He created me to be right here sitting next to Jonny Ramirez, recording the live podcast. Like that's what he created me for. So Jonny, do you have anything to add to that?
As we were talking, a verse came to my mind. It's in Genesis 1:27. It says, this is the New Living Translation. It says, "So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them." So kind of like how we're talking about image, it just kind of comes to my mind that, God has set apart an image for everybody. Like, for me, I'm not Austin, I'm Jonathan, I'm Jonny, and you're Austin. And maybe some people try to be like other people, you know, and they try to fit in to like society or, and they try to make their image as believe that they are like somebody else, Right. And I feel like that's kind of what we're like in purpose and identity, that God created us in his own image. So we're all special to him. Right. And we all have a certain purpose. And I feel like our purpose needs to be found and not be found in other things. So Right. Not be found in things that are temporary, things that are going to end. Because I'm not going to be a waiter at Denny's for the rest of my life. As a matter of fact, I'm going to die one day and I'm going to spend eternity in heaven with God, because I was created to be in a relationship with him. I was created in his image.
And I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that so much. I think that's really cool and really encouraging. If you're out there and you were like, man, who am I? I don't know what the heck I'm here for. I encourage you, seriously, check out that verse that Jonny shared, Genesis 1:27. And it says that in the image of God, we were created. And that is so amazing. I love that. And what's crazy is that we are all different. We're all unique. In the book of Jeremiah, it says that God knitted us in our mother's womb. Like he knitted each of us with specific DNA, with a specific plan in mind, with a specific destiny in mind. So like if you feel that you are nothing special, that you are just an ordinary person, I want to encourage you that you are not, that God has called you to something bigger, that God has a specific plan for your life. And can I tell you the secret? This is the secret to it all, I think. To understand your identity. Yeah, secrets are fun. My wife does or I always tell my wife when she says something to one of her friends, I'll say, hey, secrets don't make friends. Like, they don't. What are you saying over there? Like, I need to know. But here's the secret to this, I think, that if you want to know who you are, if you want to know your purpose, you have to talk to the one who created you, who gave you purpose. If the man who invented a lawnmower saw me trying to mow rocks, he would tell me, hey man, that's wrong. And I would say, what do you mean? He would say, no, I created that to mow the grass, to cut the grass. I didn't create it to cut through rocks. And as soon as I would go to mow the grass, I would be like, hey, this is way easier than trying to mow the rocks, because the mower was created for the grass. It wasn't created for the rocks. So maybe you are trying to do something with your life right now, and it doesn't seem to be working out. It seems terrible. You feel uncomfortable. You don't feel like this is where you're supposed to be. Well, maybe it's because you're not. Maybe God is trying to place you somewhere else because he created you with certain skills, talents, whatever, to operate in something much easier than in what you're operating in right now. And not to say that when you follow God, that life won't be uncomfortable, because I think that there are many times in life where you have to embrace the uncomfortable things of life.
Absolutely.
But I do believe that when you are, like take me, for example, I love to speak. I love to speak in public. I love to have relationships and talk to people. And so for me, a lot of those things come pretty easy. So it makes sense for me that being a pastor, sharing with people, telling them, teaching them, like speaking to you guys right now on this podcast, like this is easy for me because I love it so much. Maybe your skills and talents can tell you what you were created for. If you are like, I don't know, good with numbers, God probably has a purpose for you. We need accountants in this world. We need people who can help manage church budgets. We need people who can help divide money amongst all sorts of people. So like, as silly as that example might be, like God really did give you the passions and desires of your heart to do something with. He didn't want you to just sit on them. He wanted you to do something with them. So that's we'll just cut that thought right there because I'm running out of things to say. So yeah, man. Any thoughts on that?
Not really. I mean, you said basically everything.
Yeah, so. Cool. What are your talents, Jonny? What are you good at?
I'm good at being taller than you.
Yeah.
And I'm just kidding.
You're pretty good at Fortnite.
I mean, a little bit. I'm kind of rusty right now, but
yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. Jonny and I, we used to play Fortnite back in the day. Don't judge us for that, please. We don't really play anymore. It's been months since we played. It's been months, yeah. Yeah. So,
but we did used to play.
But we did play it a lot. We can't deny that because our past is our past.
I think we were pretty good.
We got to a point,
but not to brag or anything. I think that we were pretty decent.
Right. Like we weren't going to go play in the Fortnite World Cup and win $3 million, but I mean, we did all right for just some ordinary Joes. Yeah. All right. Anyway, that was just a little
side note.
Yeah, a little side note, just so you guys can know a little bit about us. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you could give any advice to someone who is struggling to find their identity and purpose, what would you say to them? I know I already kind of mentioned some things that you could do, but is there anything else maybe off the top of your head that you could think of?
Yeah. So basically, if you're struggling, to find your identity and purpose, one thing that kind of what happened in my life was I kind of just took a step back and kind of just really looked at an overview of what was happening in my life, and kind of just step back and analyze everything that you're doing, everything that's a factor in your life, and just kind of say, is this really good for me? Or is this not good for me? Yeah. And, like with me, I had to step back and really realize also a big thing throughout high school that was my friends, like the friends that I have, my friendships, and some of the friendships that I had, they weren't really that, I would say, that beneficial, or they weren't really they weren't sending me to the right direction, I would
Right.
say. I mean, I'm pretty sure many people can relate to that today.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, you have like a friend or two. I mean, like, hey, it's not a bad friendship, but
Right.
it's a friendship where you can say like, is it heading me in the right direction?
Yeah.
And just kind of to go back to the question that you asked, just kind of just step back and just analyze your life and say, what are the factors that are in my life that are making me feel like this?
Right. Right. No, I think that's good. I think that's really good. And again, just to reiterate this point, because I think this is the most important thing that we could do. If you do not understand who you are, if you don't feel like you have a purpose, seriously, take your request to God. There's a verse in the Bible that says, let your requests be made known to God. And God will never, God's not going to answer our question if we can't ask the question. So I think that it's very important for us to pray to God. I mean, seriously, take some time alone. If you're alone in your car before you clock into work, or if you right when you wake up in the morning and you think that you need to spend some time with God, then do it and ask him, God, what am I here for? What the heck did you create me for?
And one thing that's awesome too is that I'm 100%, I can assure this is like, if this doesn't happen, then you guys can come knock on my door and, take some of my money or whatever.
Yeah. Give them your address. No, I'm just kidding.
But I was also saying, that's probably the best. If when you're alone time, when you're in your car, if you're struggling, just pray to God, and I assure you that God is going to answer you. Yeah. And I'm 100% guaranteed that if you ask God, what is my purpose? What is my identity? And you take time out of your day to do that, He's 100% going to answer your question. Yeah.
What I love, there's another verse that says that God is a good father, and if you ask for bread, is He going to give you? He's not going to give you, I forget what it said, rocks. And then if you ask for something else, it says He's not going to give you snakes. I don't remember exactly what it said. But then it says, if fathers on earth are good fathers, then how much better of a father is God? Like, how much more will He give the Holy Spirit to those who ask them, is what it says. And the Holy Spirit is with us to help us make these decisions, to guide our life. So pray to God, give me the Holy Spirit as I am trying to figure this life out. I need Him to guide me in these day-to-day decisions. So I think that's important as well. Jonny, tell me, what is your purpose on this earth, man? What are you doing here? I want to know. Let these people know.
Yeah. So my purpose, I feel like I have a calling of God in my life. My purpose is I feel like I have to encourage and direct youth towards the love of Jesus. Ever since I was little, I've always really been not little, but since I've been a teenager, I've really been passionate of encouraging the teenagers who feel like they're hopeless or have no purpose.
Right.
And I just kind of feel like God's leading me in that direction. Where the degree I'm pursuing is actually in youth ministries. So
cool.
I just kind of feel like I just need to encourage and direct the youth that feel lost, broken, and like how we're talking about have no purpose to just kind of lead them to the love of Jesus and show them that they do have a purpose in God and that God has a plan for their life. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's super cool. Yeah. I remember for me when I graduated high school, ended up going to Blue Mountain Community College for 1 year, got my 2-year degree. And I remember feeling like, because in that time around spring, right before I graduated from BMCC, I sat down with the pastor of our church, Pastor Terry, and I kind of felt like, because I went on this mission trip and I thought to myself, I was getting serious about my faith. I really worked through some things in my life, and I felt like I believed that God was calling me to go into ministry, to become a pastor, and that's what I did. So I sat down with Pastor Terry at a Subway, and we're eating our sandwiches. Remember when Subway sandwiches used to be $5 footlongs, but now they're not $5 anymore?
Days, but not anymore.
Subway, if you're listening to this, you got to fix that, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sitting down at a Subway, and I remember just having this realization, something just came over me, and it was like, I was created to teach people about God. I was created to walk alongside people in life and point them to God. That's what I believe I was created for. Yeah. And whether I can make money doing that or not, it doesn't matter, because that's what I was created for. So if I have to work another job for the rest of my life while I am discipling people, while I am pastoring people, then so be it, because I was created to do this. And let me encourage you guys listening as well, that if you feel like what you're called to do isn't going to make you any money, that's okay, because you're called to do it. So you're going to do it regardless. You're going to work another job. Your passions and desires are going to allow you to, I think, work in both of those areas, because for me, I'm so tired of working jobs that I don't feel called to do, but I got to provide for my family. I got to make sure that we can eat and pay our rent. but at the same time, like I have to fulfill God's call in my life. So, I think that's important. For sure. Jonny, is there anything else that you feel like you could add to this conversation? Anything else that you haven't said yet that you might need to say, that you could tell these people that are listening, that maybe to encourage them, maybe to guide them? So anything else?
Yeah. So something that really is residing on my heart right now, and that kind of the big question, or kind of to overview everything like my life in high school and find my purpose and identity, is basically to try to don't be somebody that you are not. Like, don't be somebody that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, like don't try to be somebody to meet other people's standards or others' expectations. Like, be somebody who, you know, at the end of the day, when you go home, you go to sleep and you can say, you know what, I was the best me I can be today.
Yeah.
And someone's opinion of me doesn't really, you know, because people's opinions they do matter.
Of course.
But like, they shouldn't matter enough for you to define your purpose and identity.
Yeah.
So just something that would, just to add, is just don't try to be somebody that who you are not, and be yourself and be the person who God has created you to be, not who people say you are.
Yeah,
so.
That is really good. I think, man, especially in today's day and age when there's things like social media, I'm seeing pictures of all these famous people all the time. I'm seeing everybody else's accomplishments, but just the reminder that is not me, and that is okay.
Yeah.
Because I am exactly where God has called me. I am exactly who God created me to be. That is huge. And how can maybe you can answer this question. If somebody doesn't really like themselves, if somebody is like, I don't like who I am, what are, I don't know if you could speak to anything and say, hey, to help somebody out of that kind of mindset, what would you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, something about me too, in high school and all throughout like middle school, I was kind of like I said before, I was kind of like a bigger guy, you know, and, I never really liked that, you know?
Right.
And I never really found myself, and I was like, dang, I don't like who I am. I don't like I don't like what I look like. And it was just at the point where I got to, I was like, you know what, like, this is just who I am. Like, I got to accept who I am, and I got to, and a big part of that was also God. I mean, God told me, like, I created you, and this is who you're supposed to be. And, you know, and I kind of just started to just love myself, you know, and I've heard that somewhere. I don't know where I heard it, but just, you know, and some advice that I can give is just love yourself. Like, God created you for a reason, how you are. Like, there's a purpose. You have a purpose. And God doesn't make mistakes. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, that's good.
And just learn to love yourself, and just to, you know, God made me this for a reason, and I'm just going to live life and just accept who you are and love yourself.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really appreciate that. I think there are so many people out there today that are struggling to love who they are, struggling to love where they are in life. But I think for me, the biggest thing came once I understood that I am where God has called me to be, that I am right where I need to be, then I really began to thrive in the place that I was at. And I remember working at Domino's, and when Kinsey and I first got married, Kinsey was working at a school, and so she was working like 7:30 to 3:30 every day. And then I was working at Domino's at night shift. I was working like 4 p.m. to 1 or 2 in the morning. Dang. And so we would see each other for like half an hour every day while we worked. And I was in school. So I mean, the times I wasn't working, I was doing homework. I was also doing an internship at a church, and we were both so busy, and, it was the craziest time of our lives. And I remember like going into this sort of like almost seasonal depression type thing where I was just like, I do not like what I'm doing right now. But when I look back on it, I'm so thankful that I went through that I learned how to manage my time, that I learned how to do the things that I did in that season, because that brought me to exactly where I'm at now. So there were times in that season where I was like, okay, I'm in a good spot. Like I'm making money, I'm doing what I love, I'm going to school, I'm married to a beautiful lady, and life is good. But I really had to like talk myself up into that attitude sometimes, because it was far too easy to wake up in the morning and be like, okay, I don't work until 4 p.m. And just like sulk the rest of the day. I don't know if anybody else that works night shift does that, but when I would work night shift, I would be like, oh dude, I have to work tonight. I can't do anything today. I hate this. It's annoying. But I would like literally I'd have to talk myself up and be like, Austin, this is where you're supposed to be. This is who God created you to be. This is, even if I got to tell myself, this is just for a season. This is not going to be the rest of your life. I said things like that. So, man, I hope that those of you listening today really gained something as far as understanding who you are and understanding your purpose. And I hope that maybe some of our stories and some of this conversation really helps guide you and maybe give you some practical tips as to what you can do to find your identity, find who you are, find who God created you to be. Because, man, I'm praying for this podcast, and I believe that God is going to speak to people through this, that he is going to give them purpose. He's going to give them identity, and it's going to be great. So, Jonny, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some wisdom with us. We cannot wait to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah. I also want to give a quick shout out to Austin too for just being an awesome host, and I want to thank you, man, for having me on here, and I just appreciate you. And I really admire you doing this podcast, because a lot of people, nowadays, it's a really a big step, because you're going to reach those people that need to be reached, and it's just awesome. I really admire you, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Also, if you have not done so yet, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. I'm on a couple other apps as well, but they're not as well known. So subscribe, leave a review, give a rating, whatever you got to do. Give me a follow on Instagram at Austin Nayland. Follow Jonny. What's your Instagram handle?
It's J_12522.
There it is, J_15. What would you say? Anyway, go give.
Yeah, it'll be there.
Yeah. Go give Jonny a follow. He's doing some interesting things in his life as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. Can't wait to catch you on next week's episode. Have a great day, guys.